Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, Sukhi Hotu, may you all be well, happy, and peaceful. We're going to have a short presentation titled Reflection on Great Codes of Contentment. So the topic is basically the important quality of contentment. Now, this presentation has various slides quoting very well-known people or wise people in the course of history on the topic of contentment. Now we are going to read the quote on contentment by the various wise people throughout history. Now, there is a short write-up on who the author of the saying is. I will not read that, and you can read in either English or Chinese. The presentation is bilingual, where the texts are in English and Chinese. But the reading of the quote and some comments will be done in English. So as usual, we will go over the presentation of 20 slides, and we will reflect on each of the quotes. Now let us now start the slideshow from the beginning. Now you can see the cover slide with the title Reflection on Great Codes of Contentment. Now let me take off my video. So that is the cover slide, and you can see reflecting by people, and then just to indicate that these show contentment, right? And then this image shows the reflection. Now the second slide is also a cover slide, reflection on great codes of contentment. I think you can see the animation as we go along. And this is interesting in the sense that this dog is also showing contentment, isn't it? All right. Now that is slide number 2. Now let us go on to the first quote. We tend to forget that happiness doesn't come as a result of getting something we don't have, but rather of recognizing and appreciating what we do have. Now that is very, very important. Contentment is a very good spiritual quality, but we always think that we can get happiness only through the external world when we get something. But it's not so. It's actually to be contented with what we already have and appreciating or counting our blessings on what we already have. So this is a very important Dharma teaching, contentment. Now let us move on to slide number 4. Contentment is natural wealth. Luxury is artificial poverty. Now, contentment doesn't lie in the outside world. People think that they can get happiness and contentment if they search from the outside. The outside, very false world, actually, an illusion, is in the internal mind. And that is the natural wealth that everybody possesses if he's able to tap into his mind. People have luxury, and they think that that will give them, contentment and happiness through the luxurious things that they get from the outside world. But this is not so. It is actually artificial poverty. So, luxurious life doesn't give you that true happiness where you have contentment within and is within the mind. So that is a very important point for you to consider. Let us move on to slide number 5. Health is the greatest possession. Contentment is the greatest treasure. Confidence is the greatest friend. Non-being is the greatest joy. A very famous Chinese philosopher gave this quote, Lao Tzu, right? Now, there is a similar saying in the Dhammapada, which we will look at the end of the presentation. But anyway, let us look at what Lao Tzu has to say about contentment. Now, health is indeed a very great possession. If you don't have good health, then you feel miserable, irrespective of what you have from the external world. And he says that contentment is the greatest treasure because it's the true inner joy and happiness that you have inside the mind, because contentment is within. Then he makes the next statement, confidence is the greatest friend. Now, if you have somebody you can trust and you are confident in, then indeed you are blessed. You have a very great friend. We will look at what Buddha had to say, quite similar. And then the last one is the most tricky. Non-being is the greatest joy. Now, this actually refers to this thing we call the self. A person who is always concerned about the self, the ego, the conceit, the pride, will not be able to find the happiness of contentment. Non-being, that means it's selfless. So you see that people who do selfless work are happy. They have that very fantastic spiritual quality of contentment and fulfillment inside them. So this is a very important quote from Lao Tzu. Let us now go on to slide number 6. There is no end of craving. Hence, contentment alone is the best way to happiness. Therefore, acquire contentment. Actually, in the Dhamma teachings, we know that craving is the root cause of all dukkha or suffering. We always crave. We want more. We have this unwholesome desire of being greedy for things of the outside world, the material world. We cannot develop that contentment within the mind, which will give us the true happiness and peace. So as this particular Swami Sivananda, a very well-known Hindu spiritual teacher, and he says it's contentment alone that is the best way to happiness, to fulfillment, to joy. And that is something within you, not in the external world. Therefore, it is important that we cultivate contentment through actually Dhamma, learning, practice, and practice. So that is slide number 6. Now let's go on to slide number 7. Contentment is a pearl of great price, and whoever procures it at the expense of 10,000 desires makes a wise and happy purchase. Now you see the comparison with having 10,000 desires, right? And you will never feel truly happy and peaceful and contented. So you see that contentment is a pearl of great price indeed. It's actually invaluable, priceless treasure. And whoever can get it, whoever can see it or develop it within the mind is much much superior to all your 10,000 desires, most of which will not be fulfilled. So remember that the wise, cultivated person develops contentment through his good Dhamma practice. So this is also a very important quote. Let's go on to slide number 8. Man falls from the pursuit of the ideal of plain living and high thinking the moment he wants to multiply his daily wants. Now, there are two things very important here. There is this plain, simple living, but very fulfilling with contentment. And also good, wise thinking. And this will be lost the moment that foolish person wants to get more and more. He wants to multiply his wants. So it's a case of greed rather than need, actually. He wants more and more. So Mahatma Gandhi has quoted this very important saying, man's happiness really lies in contentment. So that is slide number 8. Let's move on to slide number 9. Riches are not from an abundance of worldly goods, but from a contented mind. And this was given by Prophet Muhammad, which is an excellent saying, profound wisdom, that you are truly wealthy or rich, not because you have a lot of worldly possessions and things, but because you have a contented mind. And you may see this is coming from the Prophet Muhammad of Islam. And of course, it is a great spiritual saying. So that is slide number 9. Let us move on to slide number 10. Contentment is not the fulfillment of what you want, but the realization of how much you already have. Now, this comes from an unknown source. So there is no description of the author because it's an unknown source. You see. But it has very, very great spiritual value. It says contentment is not, like getting what you want from the outside world. Because a person will want more and more. There's no end of it, you see. He is never satisfied. He wants more and more when he gets the things of the external world. But if in the internal world, he realizes that he has already so much. He has so many blessings already. And he is appreciative of what he has already. He is contented. And there is this true happiness, joy, and mental peace. So that is slide number 10. The secret of contentment is knowing how to enjoy what you have and to be able to lose all desire for things beyond your reach. Now, this is by a very famous person, a philosopher, and I know you can see the write-up summary of this person in Yu Tang. Now, the secret of contentment is knowing how to enjoy what you have, to count your blessings, to appreciate what you already have, and to have no desire for the things which you actually cannot get and satisfy you once and for all. There's no end. You're able to desire and get certain things, but there are things beyond your reach and you keep on desiring. So how can you get true happiness and peace? You have no contentment with what you already have. That is also a piece of wise saying. Let's now go on to slide number 12. Contentment makes poor man rich. This contentment makes rich man poor. That's a very, very good quote. Now, if a person has contentment within his mind and heart, he is rich, even though in the physical world, he may not be a rich person, but he's able to have the basic requirements of food, shelter, medicine, right? And the necessary things lah. He can be contented. And I've seen people who are more happy and contented in the rural areas where they have just the basic needs. And you can see the joy and the happiness when you encounter such people. This contentment makes rich men poor. That's very true. You see so many rich and famous people, movie stars, singers, and so on. They have all the material wealth. They have the fame. In fact, they have all the things that you think will make a person happy. But why is it that they have depression? Why is it that they commit suicide? Because they are not able to feel the joy of contentment. So you see, that is a very important point made by Benjamin Franklin. Now let us move on to number 13. If you are content or if you are contented, you have enough to live comfortably. Very true. Many people want to get not because of need, but because of greed. They already have the basic things, but they are not contented. So they want more and more from the outside world, the physical possessions lah, or maybe the power and fame lah. So they think that way they will be happy and they will have true joy. It's far from it. If you are contented with what you have, you can actually live quite comfortably in most of the cases. But in those cases, they are very poor, they can get help, you see. So this is a very important quote. If you are contented, you are quite happy with what you are able to have to be able to live the life. And I've seen that among people in the rural areas of Myanmar or Laos and Cambodia. They are far more happy compared to the rich people whom we encountered in the urban areas. You see. So you see how very true this quote is. My crown is in my heart, not on my head, nor decked with diamonds and Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content or contentment. A crown it is that seldom kings enjoy. And this is a very fantastic quotation from William Shakespeare. He says the crown is something very lofty, very valuable, isn't it? It's not on your head, that thing that is on your head that will make you peaceful. It's actually that priceless thing. Not filled with diamonds or precious stones, cannot be seen, but that thing, which is a crown with all the diamonds, right? Not physical diamonds, that is this quality called contentment. So this is the crown, the true inner crown. So very precious, priceless, in fact, that many kings, including all the rich, famous people, do not enjoy. So Shakespeare has really pointed out this very important thing we call contentment. Now let us go on to slide number 15. When we cannot find contentment in ourselves, it is useless to seek it elsewhere. So people, they want inner peace, right? They want true peace and happiness, but they think that it lies on the outside. So you see, they will be busy pursuing this and that based on the senses, the five senses. They want to get things which are beautiful that they see, or the sounds which are very nice to hear, and so on, all to pertaining to the senses. Trying to get the things from the outside world, and is futile. You will not be able to be satisfied and truly happy. You have to look within, inside you, and find and develop that contentment. Then you can see it surpasses all the other worldly possessions that you might be able to get. So this is an important saying also. Let us go on to slide number 16. The greatest wealth is to live content with little, which means the greatest wealth is to live contented with little. For there is never want where the mind is satisfied. So if you cannot develop that contentment with what you have, and usually the basic things of life, like your food, your shelter, the medicine, a place to stay, I said, and also the clothing. So this can make a person very happy already. Look at some of the cultivated monks and nuns or of other religions, so the religious people, they may have very little, just as a Buddhist monk and nun, they have only basically the four requisites. The food, the place of shelter, and then the medicine, and then the clothing. And they are very contented, and you have encountered these people who are far more happy, truly peaceful compared to the other people who are still chasing for the material things and never can get satisfied. So this is a thing that was even realized long ago in BC times by the Roman poet Lucretius. If you want to find out more, you can Google and find out more about this person. Now let us go on to slide number 16. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. It's quite similar to what we said just now. But this is given by a Roman philosopher, Seneca, right? The date of birth and so on, right? Because he lived a long time ago, so they don't have the records of when the fella was born and then when the fella died. But it doesn't matter. But he was a very famous person who passed away a long time ago, 65 AD, after Christ. And he says that people think that this person has so very little, right? So he's very poor. But actually, the one that is poor is the one who is greedy, who is always craving for more and more, who is covetous. That is the person that is poor. He may have a lot of physical possessions, but he is poor because he is not truly happy and peaceful in the mind. Why? Because he has no contentment. So this is a very good saying for us to reflect constantly. Let's go on to number 18. Be happy with what you have and are. Be generous with both, and you won't have to hunt for happiness. You see a few very important points. Being able to be contented and counting your blessings with who you are to be born a human being, you have the basic needs fulfilled, and you might even have more. And you have to be generous with both. Generous with your happiness, share with others what you have and what you are. Right? You're happy, contented, and share this with others. Then you don't have to hunt for happiness in the external world. So this is intangible, right? There's something that is inside that is contentment, and you have your inner true happiness and mental peace. And this was given by a British statesman, a former UK Prime Minister, William Gladstone. And there is good wisdom in this. Right? It talks about generosity, right? Sharing the happiness. So you see, you need not be a very wealthy or well-known person in order to be truly happy and peaceful. In fact, you can't actually. You need to go into your depths of the mind, everything, to get the true happiness and peace. Now let us look at number 19. We are coming at the end already. So I will comment on these last two that are quite profound. One was given by an English Jesuit, right? A religious person of the Catholic religion. He was a great teacher and spiritual writer. He says, those who face that which is constant actually before them, unburdened by the past and undistracted by the future. That's very important, right? He doesn't dwell the mind feeling regret, remorse, or guilt because of something happening in the past, and he doesn't speculate or worry or be frightened about the future because they know a very important element for true happiness and peace. These are the people who live, who make the best use of their lives, their present lives. And these are the people who have found the secret of contentment. Again, you see, he is pointing out this particular spiritual person from Catholicism has found out that contentment is a very important quality to develop within the mind spiritually. Then only you will be able to be truly peaceful, truly happy. So you find a similar message going right through across different famous people, from philosophers to poets to writers and so on. So this is by Alvin Goodyear. Actually, he lived not so long ago, as you can see. So now we come to the last slide already, which, as I told you, similar to what Lao Tzu had to say. So now let us look at the last slide. This is from Dhammapada verse 204. A very, very important saying. Some similarities to what Lao Tzu said as we saw in the previous slide. Now let us read this and do some reflection on it. It says that good health is the greatest gain. Contentment is the greatest wealth. Having a trustworthy relationship is the best relative. Nibbana is the highest bliss. Now, this is one version. You find that some other versions may have some differences in the words, but actually the essence is the same. So he talks about having good health, consider a blessing. It's the greatest gain. If you are not having good health, then of course you find you can feel really miserable, right? And then people think the greatest wealth is to own fantastic houses or, very expensive cars, jewelry, and all this. Not so. It is contentment. And that's what the Buddha said. Having a trustworthy relationship, which means that somebody you can trust, who doesn't cheat you, who doesn't lie to you, who doesn't play you out or stab you at the back. And that is the best form of relative. Some relatives also will cheat you, right? But having a trustworthy relationship, and that is very true, isn't it? The best type of trustworthy relationship is what we call the spiritual friend or the Kalyana Mitta. They will not really, they will support you in your quest for true happiness, true peace, and finally, liberation from all suffering or dukkha. That is the greatest type of relationship, the Kalyana Mitta or spiritual friend. And of course, the highest happiness is Nibbana, beyond all space and time. Now, that is a very, very important point to realize. So now we have come to the end of this presentation, and I hope that you have learned important life lessons, Dhamma teachings, where you can reflect on constantly and also apply in your life, actualize them, and you find changes happening in your mind. You will be able to develop this fantastic spiritual quality of contentment. So today's presentation is all about contentment. So that is slide number 20, the last slide already. So before we conclude, right, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the people, right, uncles, aunties, our Dharma friends, or even the young people, teenagers, students, secondary students, or tertiary students, primary will be a bit too difficult for them. So all those who are following this presentation, I would like to say sadhu and thank you to all of you for having spent time and also energy to follow this presentation with all the comments and also the reading of the code. So I say sadhu to all of you. So now let us hold our palms together and say sadhu 3 times, right? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So to all of you who have been following this presentation, so I say once more, thank you and sadhu. May you all be well, happy, peaceful, and may you always continue to learn, to reflect on, and apply the Dharma so that you will be able to find contentment, right? And also many other qualities that can develop. So take care. Sadhu.